Here's a little from both Jordan Love and running back Josh Jacobs on the Packers' stagnant offense in their 10-7 loss to the Eagles.
Obviously, it's disappointing. It's frustrating, but it's a long season, and we'll find ways to improve. I'm very confident as an offense we'll find ways to get back to being great, putting up points and helping the defense out, but it's frustrating. I know as a defense, they definitely have every reason to look at us and say, what are you guys doing? You guys need to figure it out and help us out, put up some more points because they're doing a great job. So it's frustrating, but, we'll stay together. We'll keep the energy high and find ways to get better and be better as offense.
We midway through the season. We can't just keep saying, all right, we're going to address it. We got to find actual answers to our problems.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. And I don't really, honestly, don't know what those answers is. I feel like everybody got to dig deep, have the belief, and give more. I mean, it's not easy. And, we can't live off of what we did last year or nothing like that. Like, we got to be in the moment.
Man, my guy Josh Jacobs needing a whole box of Band-Aids after last night. He had the cut on his arm during the game. He's got the cut on his head after the game. My son and I were watching, and it's amazing with all the different hazards, the face mask, the helmet, the straps, the cleats, everything. It's amazing guys aren't bleeding all over the place all game long. It's amazing guys aren't cut constantly. There's so many things on an NFL uniform that can cut someone, and you rarely see a guy get cut. I don't get it. I don't know how much you got cut when you were playing, but it just seems like it's not like they're juggling knives out there, but there's a lot of stuff out there that could cut somebody.
It's crazy, though. Within the game, you don't really care about the cuts you get. In Super Bowl 52, I had a play where I tackled Torrey Smith, and like the bottom of his cleat cut the right above my knee, and I had to get 9 stitches after the game. And even now, when people like look at my knee or something, they'll ask me if I had knee surgery because it was so big and it was deep. And I remember coming to the sideline, and I showed one of our assistant trainers, and he kind of looks at me, and he calls the head trainer down there, and the head trainer, Jim Whalen, had been there, 20-something years. He's like, just get me this, and just wrapped it up during the game. So you get those cuts, but like, unless you get a fracture, your ankle turns, like, guys don't care about cuts. They're just like, wrap it up, let me go back in the game. It's the big things, the ligaments and those type of things that really get guys. You don't care about cuts when you're out there in the middle of the game. Take the blood away and let me get back out there.
I remember that Black Friday game a couple of years ago, Dolphins-Jets. Tua had that chunk out of his arm that didn't bleed. And it was this glaring, you could see it every time because the cameras are on the quarterback before every play, you could see this like a nickel-sized chunk out of his arm. And you can still see the scar because he's got the tattoos all the way down the sleeve. You can still see the spot that got removed that day. And it's just amazing it doesn't happen more often. Something else that doesn't happen all that often that happened last night with the Packers offense, as it relates to this question of what is your plan, what is your strategy, what is your flow, what is the rhythm here? We're led to believe it's all very complicated and very orchestrated, and there's a maestro involved. And last night, again, it was just do whatever. Everybody was freestyling last night. There was a moment that we don't see very often, and it reminded me of Sean McVay's first year with the Rams. It was a primetime game, and the Rams were on defense, and McVay was sitting on a Gatorade jug getting ready for the next offensive drive and basically letting Wade Phillips run the team. And last night, Matt LaFleur was over at the bench, turned around like working on his notes. He was like doing his homework on the hood of his car before he ran it inside to give it to the teacher. And Jeff Hafley's running the team. It's just odd to see. And it just underscores how much delegation happens, especially if you're an offensive guy. When the defense is on the field, you're either thinking about the next offensive series or you're over there with your pen out and your notes, and you're getting ready physically for that next series.
It highlights what we talk about of the head coach who does multiple duties, the head coach that calls the defense or the head coach that calls the offense. because that's typical, right? If you have two different coordinators, it's typical while one's on the field, the other one's either talking to players or they got the headset on and they're talking to the coaches up in the booth and they're looking at the same play and they're trying to figure it out. But it looks weird when you have a head coach just not paying attention to anything, because you're also like, well, what if there's a big penalty? Do we accept it? Do we decline it? Like, is somebody talking to the coach in his ear? But again, I think it goes back to the trust and all those different things. And then on the other side of, like, we were talking about with the offensive game plan, I thought one of the things that was tough was the fumble with Jacobs when he's trying to throw the ball back. It's 4th down. I thought that was a situation in the game where you see offenses, they rush to the ball, and it's a 2-minute situation, so you throw, and they sneak a run in. But if you watch that play, I'm sitting there, and I know they don't have timeouts, and they're trying to go fast, but I'm like, guys, slow down. Like, let's get a good play called, because when they rush to the ball, and I'm telling my wife, I was like, they're going to run the ball. Philadelphia knew they were going to run the ball, and I thought that was a moment in the game where they needed to be like, LaFleur needs to go in Love's ear and say, hold on. Like, it doesn't matter how much time we save, because if we get stopped, it's going to be hard to win this game. And I know they got the ball back with 27 seconds or whatever, but that was a play in the game where I thought they had enough time to, when they got to the line, to be like, check, and get to something better rather than just run out there. Like, that play had no shot from the beginning. And I know Aikman talked about, Philly got off the ball better. Philly played the run, and, like, you don't want that situation on a 4th and 1. I thought that was a situation they could have handled better offensively, but I think it shows there's no true rhythm. Like, they're not in cadence with each other of how to fix some issues within the game.
I just want to make sure I understand it, because I'm not sure I've thought of this before, but in a moment like that, just the way that the offense is operating and the speed with which the play is being set up, a defensive player knows it's going to be a run, because they didn't go through the usual steps you go through before you're going to throw the ball. Looking around, maybe making a change here, eyeing the defense, seeing what the coverage is. You rush up there and you snap the ball, you're either clocking it or you're handing it off.
Exactly. And the thought process is, hey, the defense has all these DBs on the field. They're not playing. They're playing all pass. Like, here we go. We'll sneak a run in. But, again, exactly what you just said, the way it was moving, and I don't know, from playing football for a long time, I'm sitting there and I'm yelling, they're going to run the ball. And I think my thought would be Vic Fangio, who's watching the game too, not as a player, he's sitting there in the ear of Kobe Dean saying, hey, they're running, and now he's yelling, this is going to be a run. And you see everybody was right around the line of scrimmage pressing forward, and that's the play of the game when you get in that moment, that you rather run a better play and lose 8 seconds, 10 seconds than to run a play that's not going to work, because that's it. You're giving the ball back to Philly.
And one last point about how engrossed you can be as a coach, head coach, who's the offensive coordinator and play caller, and what that means in the macro and the micro. We were having this conversation in the viewing room throughout the day, late Sunday and into Sunday night, when it became obvious that Dan Campbell, the Lions head coach, had taken over play calling duties for the game against Washington without any disclosure in advance. It was something that common sense and the circumstances demonstrated as the game unfolded. He's looking through his glasses. He's talking when you ordinarily would be talking if you're calling the plays. He admitted after the game he was. And Coach Jason Garrett, who has done both roles simultaneously, he said it all changes. When you're calling the plays, it all changes. And you think about the things a head coach is responsible for, big picture, because if you don't call plays, there isn't much as a head coach that you do on game day. There aren't a lot of occasions to run over and do the homework on the hood of your car. You're there for that handful of big decisions that get made from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. But if you're calling the plays, you're working while you're ready to make the big decisions. And not everybody can do both, because you're caught up in the flow of the play calls, but then you got to be ready to pivot to, it's time for a big decision. What does ESPN analytics say here? What does head coach analytics say here? Are we going or are we not going? What are we doing about this? What are we doing about that? Should we take a timeout? Do we need a timeout? Should we saving the timeout? Do we throw the red challenge flag? Do we hold it? And those are just two different worlds that all that all come together when you're the guy that's doing everything.
Yeah, and I know people talk about Sirianni a lot, and, he has an offensive background and was an offensive coordinator. But I think that's part of the reason why he continues to find coordinators. I think he likes being in the game and being able to pay attention to both sides. Whether we agree or disagree with a call, it seems like he feels more comfortable being able to be on it from that standpoint of, hey, this is what I want to do. 4th and 6, I've been locked into this game. I want to go. I might not agree with it, but I think he probably feels like it makes it easier for him to just go do that, because there is an argument like, hey, Sirianni, you've lost coordinators each year in a row. Why not just step up and you be the coordinator? But I think there is value in just being the head coach. I remember talking to Belichick about that. There were years when I was in New England where he basically ran the defense, and then there were other years where he didn't. And the years where he didn't, all those years we won Super Bowls. And not to say that the years he did run the defense, that was the reason why we didn't. But I think he used to talk about he had a better grasp of the whole team, not just on game day, but of the team overall, because in practice and walk, like every time we were doing something, when he was just the head coach, he would be walking around twirling his whistle, be on the defensive field, be on the offensive field. It gave him a better feeling about his team. And I think that is very true, because when you are the offensive or defensive coordinator, when practice is going on, other than when the team is all on one field, you can't be in two places. You can't see how the offense is preparing. You can't see all those things. You can't see the defense. So I do think there's some value, and I think it has to go on however the head coach feels most comfortable.
And that's a great point, that the Patriots were more successful in the years that the coach had a full view of the whole team and understood the whole team and didn't get so caught up in one side of the ball. But we see that. I think there's And there's two different schools of thought. This is the horse that brung me. This skill set is what allowed me to become a head coach. My ability to call offensive plays and design an effective offense allowed me to get this job. Why would I stop now? This is what got me here. Why would I give up my superpower now that I've parlayed it into the ultimate football job? So it's something that's going to continue to be an issue, especially since we'll see the Eagles hosting the Lions on Sunday night, and we'll see whether or not Dan Campbell has his glasses on during the game. That's the key. If he's always going to have the play sheet, but when the glasses are on, he's calling the plays. Unless he gets contacts this week, he could mess with us by getting himself LASIKs or contacts this week. One last point: Elgton Jenkins, the starting center for the Green Bay Packers, serious ankle injury. Fracture was revealed in the lower leg, according to ESPN, so he's going to be out for a long time. That hurts the Green Bay Packers. They take on the Giants this weekend, and they just get to get back on the right track. They were 5-1-1. They were the 1 seed not that long ago, coming out of the Steelers game, where we saw that, not dominate, but they looked far better than I thought they would in Pittsburgh, maybe because the Steelers didn't. But they were 5-1-1. Now they're 5-3-1. They're in danger of falling to 5-4-1 if they should lose this weekend to the Giants. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.